Testing. 1, 2. Getting ready to go. Right on, everybody. Just a little bit left, and I guess we'll just hop on soon enough. Having a look at the chat, start to fill up. All right. Adding with my mouth a little bit of Hey, hey everybody, it's Abe Duque. Thanks again. Welcome to my Playhouse, my production Playhouse. My name is Abe Duque. I'm an instructor at 343 Labs. I am also a streamer. I stream here every Friday on this channel, 343 TV. And we call this show the Production Playhouse, where we talk about all sorts of things related to production and mixing and mastering and the like. We are, again, 343 TV. 343 TV comes from 343 Labs. 343 Labs is a school that we've been running for about 2 years now, a little bit over 2 years now. We have locations in New York, which was the original location, and we then opened a location in Berlin, which we are now also having physical classes at. We, of course, do stuff on the internet. Actually, ever since the pandemic hit, we were kind of catapulted right onto the internet. We were already on the internet. I was already doing internet-based online classes, but then everybody, all the instructors jumped on, and most of our teaching is online these days, until, very soon when we all get back out of our houses and back to what normal used to be. So thanks for coming here. Thanks for joining us here, like as I said, every Friday. And today's topic is going to be a little talk about psychoacoustics. We'll get to that later. I usually get to the topic of the day about halfway point of the show. I have other things that I want to get to. I always want to fill the show up with so much, and we were in a meeting this week with all the streamers and Teatro, who runs the whole show, and he's like, "Why are you packing so much in, Abe? Nobody's telling you to do it." Because I was like, "I'm so stressed. I got so much to do," and he's like, "You don't have to." Well, I like to. I like to bring you guys as much as I can. This is the highlight of my week. This is the moment where all my week comes together. I spend the whole week thinking about what I'm going to talk about and who I'm going to talk to this week. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Oh, Max Wild is here. Hey, Max. Good to see you. Max, you have the link at any time if you want to hop in. I think Selway said he was going to hop in today. But let's see. Max is in Berlin right now. Max is one of our founders. Also, I've been teaching together with Max since the Dubspot days. Yeah, let's see who else is here. William Mindreaders is here. He says, hello, Abe. Hello, Max. Who else is here? Andrew Duke, of course. You can't have a show without Andrew Duke. I think if we went on and Andrew Duke wasn't there, I think I'd sign off immediately and just say, you know what, come back next week when Andrew can make it. Enigmatic Onion. Enigmatic Onion writes here, I made $50 on a studio gig yesterday thanks to all your help, Abe. Y'all have taught me so much in a short amount of time. Well, can you give us some information on how you made the $50? Because you know what? We all want to know what you actually did for $50. Tsone It says, nice tune. I guess he's referring to the opening tune. The opening tune is sometimes I do these little live things when I'm fooling around at night. And I record them, and then sometimes I put them up as a starting soon screen, because I figure that the starting soon screen is kind of boring if you just have a screen. Might as well have something going on in there, right? Thank you, Sutne, for that. Enigmatic Onion. All right, we said John H. Kingston III, of course. Yeah, just like Andrew Duke, John. Yeah, he's always here. Sonic Walden is here. Hello. Hey, Abe. Hey, everyone. Okay. Andrew Duke says, I try to watch every stream live. When unable, I always watch the recording of the stream. Wow. Thanks for that. That really makes us feel good. It makes me feel good. It definitely feels good to be able to come in here and see the regulars. It's kind of like, showing up to a bar or a pub and be like, hey, everybody, let's talk shop. Once again, if you guys could do me a favor, though, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. We want to build this up. I mean, we're let's see what number we're at right now. We're about 8.4K subscribers. We're growing pretty fast. At this rate, we'll be at 10K in no time. If you guys would do me the favor, just hit the subscribe button and maybe the notification bell to let you know when we're on. We're on every day at 1 p.m. Just to kind of let you know. We have shows stemming everything from Ableton tips and tricks on Monday with Doltrick. We have a call-in show with Tetro on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, we have Louis Beck doing his essentials for electronic music production, I think it's called. And then Thursdays, of course, Max Wild with his amazing show on theory, but these days he's doing like every genre known to man. And I was like, we had a meeting this week, and I was like, Max, how do you do it? And he's like, not going to tell you. But I just don't. The guy is such a repository for music and all these different genres. I couldn't imagine doing a show every week on a genre a week. I think yesterday must have been Tech House, right? I didn't get a chance to watch. Let's see, what else do we have here going on? But let's get started. I think you guys have gotten used to this, and a lot of people comment on this, so I can't stop doing it anymore. So I think it's time. To do the news, and I'm gonna do a little intro for it. So I'm Abe from 343 Labs and 343 TV, and you are now watching this week's news. Yeah, I did that intro because we want to start cutting these up into little clips and putting them out, as short bits on the internet. Let me just grab my news stuff here, and let me start by once again last week's show we started with a kind of a sad note, and I guess we got another sad note to start with this week. Well, let's just get to it. Where is it? Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Here we are. Rupert Neve. Yeah, let's make him a little bigger. Rupert Neve. So this is from Gear News. With great humility and sadness, we must report that Rupert Neve, the great professional audio pioneer and inventor, is no longer with us. Rupert Neve died, age 94, on February 12th, in 2021 in Wimberley, Texas. His residence for 27 years. He is survived by his wife of nearly 70 years, Evelyn, 5 children, 9 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. His work lives on in the products of Rupert Neve Designs, which he co-founded 16 years ago with Josh Thomas. I believe that might be a little longer than 16 years ago. It can also be traced in almost any piece of modern recording and studio equipment. With a long and full life behind him, and his legacy will left the finest possible hands and minds. We are saying goodbye to Rupert Neve and paying our respects one last time. rest in sound. Yeah, Rupert Neve. If you guys have never used any or heard of any, because the stuff is expensive, Neve hardware, like Neve consoles. My favorite EQ ever is the Neve 1073 EQ. But the stuff, I mean, top notch stuff. Probably top three of all the I guess British EQ companies that you can talk about. Maybe up there with SSL. I think SSL and Neve maybe top two. But yeah, that's sad. But hey, he left a lot for us to enjoy. Okay, let's move on in the news. Let's go to something a little lighter. Let's do this one. Let's do. So this is again from Gear News. This is the Monster Machine. They spell it Machin. So I don't know if it's Machine, but it's coming from Balaron. Balaron, the makers of the River Analog Polysynth, is working on a new monster synthesizer. They are calling it the Machin. I don't know what Machin. The machine is very much a work in progress, but Laurent Balaron can't hide his delight. There's no other information on this website or social media about it, but that actually some information leaked out. I have it written down here. What you can see is that it has 4 oscillators, 2 analog and 2 digital ones, which pass into 4 filters, where it can be modulated by 3 LFOs and 4 envelopes through a pair of VCAs. Though there's enough there for 4-voice polyphony synthesizer at least. It has a huge color touch screen with a sequencer stacked vertically on the right side, and a row of buttons to the bottom left that indicates the play modes with which includes mono, dual, and poly, as well as OP1 and OP2, which is intriguingly FM sounding. So there we have it. Something to look forward to. Let's have a look at the chat, see if anything's going on. Yeah, a lot of people are stating RIP, rest in peace, Rupert Neve. Rashane is here saying that. John says the same. Let's see what else. Oh, Sebastian Bomberger, also from Metallism Records. If I'm saying that right, I'm sorry if I'm kind of killing it. Also, rest in peace. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, hold on. Let's see. Enigmatic Onion gives us a little update. What happened? Let's see. I made an 11-minute ambient song for my friend that does, HR safety meetings. I posted on Facebook that I'm now taking on a sort of audio, any sort of audio work. And I got 7 jobs off the bait. Awesome. That's great. Wow. And Enigmatic Onion is also threatening to send Dogecoin to people. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm reading the chat, what's going on in the chat. All right. Let's continue with the news. And John, if you're listening, anytime you want to jump in is fine with me. You don't have to wait till a certain point where I might call you in. Let's see. Let's go to the next subject in the news. Oh, this is interesting. This is really interesting. So Lander creates this collaborate online over video chat and streaming in any DAW. This is from Lander. Now, a lot of these, or some of these services have been coming out. I mean, I've been using Audio Movers, which is really interesting because you can send really good quality audio through the internet for collaboration. You could somehow do it on Zoom. I do classes on Zoom, and it works quite okay, collaborating over Zoom. But Lander has this. Let's see. This is also from Gear News. Lander Sessions is a new tool from online mastering service Lander. It's basically a free plugin for any DAW, which you can place on the master track to stream audio and collaborate over video chat with others. And the best part of it, you don't have to pay anything for the basic functionality. However, if you want a little more out of the plugin, you have to purchase Lander's inexpensive subscription. Hold on, we have somebody joining us. Let's assign John to guest one spot, and let's put him in here. Where is my guest one? Hello, John. Your mic is down, or maybe I have you down.
You always do. You always do that.
Well, no, it's just set up that way. I don't do that. I didn't. It just. I fixed it. Don't get mad at me. I fixed it.
I'm not mad at you. Oh, look at me. I'm smiling.
All right. So, did you hear about this Lander's collaboration stuff?
You could have expected I would pop in when you started talking about this, because I
really
have a thing or two to say. I have some, because I've been looking into this kind of technology like pretty deeply since COVID started, and yeah, I've been trying to keep my tabs on all of the different new ways we can collaborate and share from a distance. So this was definitely on my radar.
Yeah, you can have voice and video chat at the same time, which enables direct communication. However, you cannot record musicians remotely or have them engage inside your DAW. Some DAWs like Cubase offer that kind of functionality, but engineering a plugin to do that across a DAW on all platforms is a tall order.
It is, but actually there are a couple of very promising, free, not too complicated, hard to use platforms to do just that happening currently. So,
please enlighten us.
There's one called Sonobus, and it's. You remember I did the thing about Ninjam and how to sync up online?
Sure.
There's another application called Jamulus, which tries to do super low latency, right? And the quality of the audio is less than you would want for like working in a DAW. And that's pretty much the thing. Like, it's always a trade-off. It's if you want it to be immediate, so you can play together in a group, right? So you're all sort of following each other. The latency has to be low, but then the quality of the audio has to be low to keep, or you have to have the best internet connection ever, like really high quality internet connection. Anytime you want to have full resolution audio, inevitably you're using more data, you need more bandwidth. So if you don't have it, the only way to do it is to buffer it to add latency. So that throws the timing off, right?
Yeah.
So a solution like this is, I haven't tried it yet. I downloaded it. We should test it.
We should.
Yeah.
One of these evenings.
And you can do it for free. They'll give you 15 minutes for free. And I want to test like how high quality it is, how well it works. It opens up a browser separately from your DAW. It's not like it's running inside the plugin in your DAW. You have to, it streams the audio from your DAW to your browser and then over the internet. And
nice.
I think that's great, but you have to pay to do unlimited amount of time. You have to pay, and I already, things like Sonobus can already do this for free, and you can even Sonobus runs as a plugin inside of your DAW. And if you have a DAW that can do multi-channel audio between tracks, like Ableton, Logic can't do it, but other Pro Tools can do it, Reaper can do it. You can actually set up multiple people or just one person through multiple connections and track them on individual channels in your DAW. So you could do what you're talking about. Like you could have someone playing remotely and record them on a separate track while you're working on your project.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Have you used Audio Movers?
No, but that's an example of what I was talking about before, where it can't do super low latency, but it can do very high quality.
The latency is not so bad.
Yeah,
I've done 32-bit
right?
PCM, and it's almost not an issue at all, the latency.
Well,
almost.
For recording, fine. For playing together, probably wouldn't work.
No. This is not for playing together. This is more just to like, hey, let's mix this record together. And so,
I definitely want to try. Yeah, I mean that's going to work. I would, something like if this is easy to use, something like this could work for teaching, for private lessons. I don't know how in a classroom setting it would work with like a bunch of people, but I think you could do if you pay, you can have up to a certain number of people simultaneously on this.
Right. I think Audio Movers does 40, but this is
Yeah.
including a lot more than what Audio Movers is going to gives you so far. So let's see what happens. This space is opening up. Competition is good, right? The space is this is great for all of us, I guess.
I definitely want to give a plug again for Sonobus though, because you can do like 44.1 like high bit rate audio with it, and it's free.
All right. Somebody's saying that the guy who is the silent dude in the upper left, he seems not to have much to say about the conversation. Hey, dude, come on, wake up. All right. Okay, that was pretty funny. All right, let's go to the next thing in the news. I think you'll have something to say about this. Maybe you've seen this, and maybe you haven't. But let's see. Have you heard that about what IK Multimedia is doing now? IK Multimedia.
No.
Mic preamp for digital cameras and mobile devices. This is from Gear News. IK Multimedia announces the sequel to its iRig pre-portable preamp that interface with content creators anywhere. The iRig Pre 2 fits the decent mic pre with a 48-volt phantom power and XLR input in a tiny battery-powered unit meant for recording with mobile devices and digital cameras. The analog to digital conversion is handled by the device's built-in converters, which tend to be reasonably good nowadays, even great in high-end smartphones. So there you go. iRig Pre 2.
I have an iRig thing. I forget what it's called. It's just got a stereo RCA input.
Mm-hmm. Does it have XLR and phantom power? Yeah,
no, but they already make one of those that's stereo, right? Don't they have a 2-channel one that's got XLR inputs?
I think so. This is the second version of it, but this one has double A powered phantom power. Good for 7 hours of recording with phantom power, as many as 20 hours without.
If it's not as noisy as the one that is the iRig that I have, then great. Because
another convenience is the Velcro strip slot used to attach the iRig Pre 2 to whatever mic stand or surface you want.
You can rig it up. You can put the rig in your rig with the Velcro.
You can put the rig in your rig. So yeah, there you go. You're on the go, people.
Okay.
On the go producers. iRig. Let's go.
You know what I use the iRig stuff for? I have it hooked up to an iPad, and I record my kids when they're recording pieces for their teacher, or sometimes they'll do online recitals and we'll make a video. So I'll set up the iPad with the iRig and plug the digital piano into the iRig and get a really nice, clean recording, and then it's easy to you can do that actually. I think if you use Zoom on an iPad, you can use an external audio input and have high quality audio into a Zoom.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, it is kind of cool.
All right, and one last thing. This is for you Eurorack people out there. John, when are you going to get into Eurorack? I've been trying to get you into it.
I have
for a while.
one module.
Which one's that?
It's the Sleepy Hypno.
It would be the Sleepy one, wouldn't it, John?
Isn't that funny? If you know me really well, you know why that's funny. We don't have to elaborate. But yeah, it's Sleepy Circuits, and it's a video synth.
Well, I told you I have a rack here waiting for you to come and take home and play with and do stuff.
I would love to.
I've been trying to pawn it off on you for days. I've even tried to deliver it to you, and you've been...
I wasn't here.
Okay.
You're the one with the car. Feel free to stop by.
Anyway, Mutable Instruments, Clouds. It was an instant classic, but now they have this thing called Beads. Beads. For if you guys are familiar with Mutable Instruments, and anybody that's into Eurorack stuff knows Mutable Instruments, one of the top 5 I think companies making amazing gear. Mutable Instruments Clouds define granular instruments even beyond the modular world. But Beads, it's making a surprise debut today, is a brilliant looking follow-up, retaining the design but improving almost every element. So there's a lot of really cool new tweaks that you can do, a lot of cool new parameters.
What does it do?
It's a granular synthesizer. So
I know that,
okay.
but they don't know that necessarily.
Okay, so I'm gonna just read my text from the gear addiction of endless racks. Clouds was just at home in a tiny skiff, a module even minimalists could dive deep into, and part of what gave the character was undoubtedly its clear, iconic panel design. The first clever bit about beads is that it doesn't change that, but as these devices are effectively tiny computers, creator Emily Gillette has re-aspected the device entirely and given what she describes as hardware and software redesigned from the ground up. Quick review, the basic notion is, again, input granular processing, output live control. You have the essential controls, time, density, pitch, but it also unique size and shapes controls. And then what makes it so necessary, a modular instrument. Everything is patchable in a layout anyone can immediately intuit. So
Intuitive
granular
modular.
synthesis, yes, yeah, and
I mean, I think, even with some experience making music for a long time, modular can be daunting because it isn't always intuitive, right? It takes there's some ground level knowledge you need to have before you can be musical with it.
with I was thinking I want to do a little more modular on the show.
I was just going to say you should do that.
Yeah, I just it's just hard to keep people's attention when you just start showing them, these little components, and it goes so slow,
No.
It goes so you got to go really like building blocks and putting it together. I'm going to maybe I'll start doing a little part of the show for modular every time, but once you get past a certain threshold of like knowledge and experience with it, then you can start flying with it. So it's really not something you could just jump into and suddenly, yay! It's not like grabbing a serum and going through presets, for example, which is another experience altogether.
It doesn't work like that.
No presets here. But yeah, all right. So let's be done with the news. And we are 343 TV, and that was the news. Sorry, I had to do that for the clip cutting thing. Are you doing that too now, John? You have a show, John, right? Tomorrow? You have a show on Saturdays?
I have a show on Saturdays.
And what's your show tomorrow? Tomorrow your show is on what? On arranging electro or something? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, lately I've been having these like general titles for the shows that are like, so they're kind of vague and making a point at the same time. Like, yes, I'm going to be working on an electro track. It's anytime you see arranging in the show, it's probably me just working on a track and talking about it. And
oh, we lost John. Hold on, sorry. Go ahead.
Can you
John,
hear
are
me?
you there? Yeah.
I'm
we lost
here
you for a second. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, go ahead.
That was disconcerting. I was gone.
What were you saying about about electro?
I was saying that I'm basically, if you watch the series, if you follow along and come to my show every week, you may have noticed that whenever there's something about arranging, it's not specifically only about arranging. I'm basically working on a track, and I'll talk about arranging. I'll talk about the overall production process. If sound design comes up, I will talk about sound design. Basically, tomorrow I'm going to, I've got a bunch of unfinished projects that I can bring onto the show and then hang out with you guys and work on it. So that's what's going to happen. So come along.
Right, and we have the giveaway always announced on your show, right? This week's giveaway is a 3-month subscription to what is it, Splice? Yeah, Splice. It's 3 months. 3 months of Splice. Splice is a great little place to land where you can find all sorts of things. It started out as a collaboration platform, so that you could upload your Ableton or Logic or I think even, was it GarageBand as well, files and collaborate with your friends. But then I
use it with students sometimes.
It kind of opened up to more than that, meaning that they started adding samples. Now they have a humongous sample library which you could kind of subscribe to and kind of get 100 points a month, I think they give you for the subscription. And which means you got access to their whole library, and then you're able to go in there and pick what you like and take up to 100 samples a month, which doesn't sound like much, but it is really much because you don't use that many. if you can preview them all, you can just take what you need, which is great. It's better than storing them yourself in some sort of hard drive or something.
I think,
And they also
samples in the cloud makes a lot of sense.
And they also have VSTs. They also do VSTs. They rent them. They rent a VST there or buy a VST as well. So check it out. Splice, 3-month subscription. And tomorrow we're going to give that away. Yeah. So
Yay.
everybody tune in to John's show for that. What time do you give? Do you do it in the? I saw the other day you were like, I was going to do the giveaway, but something went down and you couldn't do it.
Thomas told me that they were going to announce the winner on Sunday instead, but then that was wrong.
It was.
Yeah. So then they ended up I said, oh, okay, well, we'll announce it tomorrow. And then he posted in the chat, and then I was like, oh, I guess I should have announced it. So
do you get to pick the winner, or do they just hand it to you?
They just tell me. They should give me like it's too bad I don't have like one of those lottery things with the balls.
And have like your son come in and like pull one out and go, here, Dad.
It would be so much fun, but that would be so much preparation.
Not really. Figure it out somehow. All right, let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. Okay, well, let's just say we're 343 Labs. 343 TV is what you're watching. We come from 343 Labs, which is a school. John and I are both instructors there. John teaches everything from Ableton to sound design, and I teach everything from Ableton to mixing and mastering. We have classes starting all the time. Actually, I have a class starting on Sunday at 12:15. I have a class starting. So if you guys want to get down, we can get down. Now, we are here every day. Every day at 1 o'clock we have a show, including Sundays sometimes. Not every Sunday, but every other Sunday, I believe, right? Is that the case, John?
Yeah, sometimes we have special events on Sundays.
Right. But yeah, come and check us out. We were also talking about hijacking the channel sometimes and doing some special streams, but that's just an idea. Like,
that's what you should
not
do
at 1 o'clock.
Thing.
Not at 1 o'clock, maybe at middle of the night. Hey, everybody. I've hijacked the 343 TV channel, and now we're going to just play with modular stuff all night. Okay, let's see what's going on. Like that. They might. Okay, a lot of stuff going on in the chat. Are you monitoring the chat too, John, or is this just me? I think William Mindreaders is saying a lot in the chat today, but I'm not going to read everything because I see he loves mutable instruments and lots of stuff. Andrew Duque is also saying a lot. Let's see what Andrew finally said. He said, anyone who has yet to should grab NI's free complete start. Comes with so much, including Reactor, which has tons of free ensembles you can use from the NI site. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, complete start is cool.
Yeah, it is. It's an entryway drug, I think, into their world of.
Did you see Max said we're going to start the 343 coin?
All right, Max. That's how he's going to pay us in the future.
There you go. To the 343
coin. Exactly. All right, let's get to talking about what we were here to talk about today. Do you know what we're here to, what I'm here to talk about and what you've just now been recruited to talk about, John?
Something about psychos?
Psychos. We talk about psychos. Yeah. Sorry.
Psychoanalysis?
Psychoacoustics, John. What do you know about psychoacoustics?
A little bit. It's something I'm aware of. And
so psychoacoustics
in synth class.
So let's see. The psychoacoustics is the scientific study of sound perception. So it's a branch of science studying the psychological and physiological reactions and perceptions in music and speech.
Yep.
Right. Why is this important? Why is this important to talk about? That's the reason. Yeah, well, rhetorically, and then to you as well, since you are here.
Okay. Well, because if you're making music, whether you're making electronic music or playing an instrument in a space, like being aware of how we perceive sound can help you, more consciously make music in a way that affects people. Like it's, there's all this emotional information and language that we can, convey through music that's obvious, like melody, rhythm, chords, right? All the music theory stuff that you can codify. But then there's also stuff about sound and about how sound is perceived, how it moves through the air. And then once it goes into your ear, everything changes based on what your brain comprehends
That's the thing.
about the sound.
That's the thing.
It's sort of
And I
like
think
what your brain does with the information. It's really important.
that is how it interprets it, the information. It's so, and that's the thing. I think this is the basis. Well, at least one of the key components of my mixing sort of program that I designed, the curriculum that I designed, which is to wake up people to this the idea that this is a reality. Most people don't realize that this is a reality. They think of, sound is a kind of a linear, kind of mechanical sort of thing that happens, and we perceive it with our ears. Our eardrums kind of perceive the waves, and then we know that that's going on, and that's the end of the story. And if that would be the end of the story, it'd be a lot easier to mix and master and even create sounds in sound design, right? But that's not the case. The case is way more complex than that. A lot of stuff happens
your brain
here.
perceives, and it's also physiological. Like the shape of your head and the shape of your ears and your ear canal also change. So it's like everybody hears something different.
Totally. Well, yeah, to an extent, yes, that is the case. But there are certain realities or truisms about what our brains do to sound. That it's funny, I'm doing these classes, and I start my first few sessions of the classes really breaking all this information down and how it's important to us. And I would say I haven't had one student that has been aware of this stuff, like to the degree that they should be aware of it. It changes everything. It really does change. It literally. So what happens is that, you know how we have A to D converters in a computer, right? We have A to D converters in our heads as well. And those are hair cells. The hair cells work as A to D converters, which turn it into neurological signals that could even be thought of as zeros and ones. And then that goes into the software that's in this thing right here. And it changes things. It changes things. How? Well, let's have a look. I have some things kind of prepared here. So, yeah, the first thing I wanted to say was that hearing is not purely a mechanical phenomenon. Okay, we already kind of went through that, so let me just get out of that. Let's have a look at some of the things that might happen. Let's talk about this thing here. You know what this is, John?
Equal loudness contours?
Yeah, this is the Fletcher-Munson curve.
Right.
So in the 30s, Bell Labs commissioned a study to get to figure out how to deal with the energy that is needed to carry phone conversations over the country, long distance conversations. So one of the things that came out of this was this Fletcher-Munson curve, where there was a study about how we perceive frequencies and how good we are, first of all, at perceiving certain frequencies. We are not as good as, at every frequency than, for example, 3,500 hertz, which is the best frequency that we're good at. So if we look at the 3,500 hertz portion of the chart, you'll see that, we are the best at that. Moving high and low from there, we're really kind of awful at perceiving frequencies. So around 3,500 hertz is the resonant sort of frequency of the ear canal. Right. But as you add amplitude to the story, meaning as you add, let's say in air, sound pressure level, the perception of our brains, the way our brain processes the data changes. And as you get louder or as you get more amplitude, your perception for the frequencies across the board start to kind of even out. So at, let's say, the praying threshold, the very loudest thing you could hear, the low and the highs and the mids, they all start to kind of like pan out to feel the same. That's why listening to music louder feels like it's a fuller experience. Like, yeah, this is great. Pump it up, right? But this means that when you're mixing louder, it's a flawed experience because you're receiving all frequencies coming at you at the same time, or you're perceiving all frequencies at the same level. And the decisions that you make at louder levels while you mix, horrible. That's why, engineers, if you watch a real engineer at work, a real engineer will be having everything super quiet in the mix as they listen to things, because the quieter you listen to things, the more correct or the better it'll be. Because if you mix loud and then lower the volume, things get askew and mix goes off. But if you mix quiet and you make it louder, it always gets better. It's always better to listen very quiet. And I would say conversational level or below is the level that you should be listening to. So this is one of the first things that people don't realize about listening to music or sound, is that the louder you listen to things, your brain filters things out in a different way and presents it to you differently. For whatever reasons, maybe it has to do with, just helping you navigate through the world, helping you keep the frequencies that are important to you in perspective as the sound pressure gets louder and as it gets quieter. Just because, we need to kind of navigate. Our ears were a way to get around, our way of getting around. We use now to create music with, but now we need to understand these little things, like the Fletcher-Muncy curve or the Robinson-Dadson curve, which came after. This one is from the 30s, and I think the Robinson-Dadson was like from the 50s or something like that. But it worked. It continued the equal loudness curves work that Fletcher and Munson did to understand it. So that's just the beginning of the whole thing. So not only that, but there are crazy things that happen as we hear, as we use our hearing. Let's have a look at hair cells. Hair cells are really important. This is a hair cell, John. You see that hair cell?
I see it, Abe.
We have 3,500 of these. 3,500 hair cells, thereabouts. And they are laid out. So this is what you call tonotopicity, right? They're laid out.
You're getting really detailed here, man.
Hey, man, that's what we do. We teach people things. We're a school, man. And if you want to learn all this stuff, you can take a class with us. Sunday we start a class. I start a class. So tonotopicity is it's just the way that the hairstyles are laid out. They're laid out, spaced out at 3,500 spaces, but in between those spaces, there's they're laid out almost like a graphic EQ would be. So let me hold on. I have another. Let me show you what I mean. This is the, nope, that's not, hold on. I thought I had, maybe I got to import it. Hold on. I had a critical bands chart here, because this is how, because your hair cells are laid out in critical bands, sort of like a graphic EQ or something like that would be laid out, or let's say a set of filters all the way out. Actually, you refer to them as auditory filters. See, I have it here. I'll just pop this in there, see if it works. There we go. So these
So
are.
let me just stop you there for a second. So
Yeah.
somehow, what you just showed us before, how does that relate to this? Like,
Okay,
are
I'll
you
do
saying
that.
that there's like individual? All right, just go ahead.
Yeah, let me get the other thing going here too. So the hair cells. So these hair cells represent, these bands, and this is a kind of a broad way of kind of looking at it. But the auditory filters are laid out across the frequency spectrum in our cochlear. All right, and these hair bands are laid out on our cochlear, and they all represent a different part of the frequency spectrum. So you might have one representing 1,000 hertz, and then one representing 1,010 hertz. But there are
Different frequencies will make those little things move or something.
Yeah, so different frequencies. There's a sweet spot on each one of these that correlates to that frequency. So we have this tonal typicity is all about these sweet spots that happen. And in between these sweet spots, we have like kind of areas that we fill in the blanks, believe it or not.
And that's sort of where the brain comes in, right? That's where we start.
Yeah,
getting
that's
into
sort of
this
where the brain comes in.
acoustic
And there's a lot of crazy things that happen. And it's sort of the origin of dissonance in our heads, because dissonance and consonance, consonance being when something sounds harmonic and nice, and dissonance being when it sounds like so take a minor second, for example, like a A to a A sharp, right? You play those together and they just like and the reason that happens is because the auditory filters are too close together, and those two notes are within one auditory filter. They find themselves overlapping, and they're right in that one auditory filter. So there's no way of having that auditory filter make the distinction between those two notes. And as you get higher, you have more like this is for the lower notes. As you get high, that's why it's a little more difficult getting like understanding low frequencies or tuning low frequencies. When I want to tune a kick, instead of like tuning a kick with the low frequency, I'll bring it up by like 2 or 3 octaves and tune it that way, because it's
there's a I've been wondering, as far as practical examples of how psychoacoustics affects how you mix, and what you just said there, like a lot of people like to have their kick drum fundamental in tune with the key of their music or their note of their bass line or something like that. And low frequencies, because of how our brain and our ears work, it's hard to determine exact pitch at very low frequencies. So that's a limitation of how we hear, and it's a psychoacoustic thing. So transposing it up an octave makes it easier to hear the pitch of that drum.
Sure, because there are more hair cells dedicated to the frequencies as you go on, and or just the fact that the frequencies are so close together at so low pitches. So the difference between a note at 50 hertz to the very next note might just be 10 hertz or something like that. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but it's very close in hertz. And the difference between like a 50 hertz note and the octave above it is going to be a 100 hertz note, right? But if you go to a 2,000 hertz note or a 1,000 hertz note, you're going to be like adding, it's going to be 1,000 to 2,000. So it's always double the frequency an octave jump. So so we have more auditory nerves to catch that stuff. And then so what happens is if they're too close, you get this kind of like a beating effect. You ever heard of this the beating effect?
Let's talk about that.
So the beating effect. So the beating effect happens. It even happens just outside of your ears. It happens in. Let's see if I can go to a DAW here, and I'll put you somewhere nice up here. Not take away that guest too. Sorry, and I'll put myself down here. So so the beating effect. Let's see if I can get a synth going. Just bear with me, John. Wasn't prepared. So you got one synth playing a note. Let's play a lower note. And then you have a second synth. Let's just copy this. Playing same note. Okay, so those are going to be fine, but if I take the one of them and just slightly change the frequency, you have this intermodulation that happens.
Have you got an oscilloscope?
No, maybe in Maxwell Live. So all right, hold on. There might be an oscilloscope.
Can you hear my sine wave?
No, I can't hear your sine wave. What were you trying to do?
We're having fun. Well, no, I'm following along.
We're having well, follow along, John.
Serious.
And you at home, follow along. See,
do you hear it now?
Oscilloscope. Yes, I do hear it now.
Cool. All right.
Okay, so here's my. So you see what happens here? This is kind of intermodulation effect. Sidebands are created because of the difference between the tuning. So we do it just a little bit. Can I do just less than? Trying to do little. So there it is. That's the intermodulation effect. But you're going to have this happen in your ears as well. John, did you disappear? Or are you still there?
No.
You're showing your nice. Look at that. John's got his own class going on here.
I do. That's right. I'm doing what you're doing.
All right. So things of this sort. So I don't want to continue on down this path of intermodulation, but just mentioning another thing that happens with the psychoacoustics. So our brain perceives. So the big takeaway is that our brain perceives, gets the data from our ears, which are straight up linear mechanical instruments, and then that data gets transformed into usable data, processed into usable data for our daily living. And now the Fletcher-Munson curve is one thing. We now know that there's limitations to the frequencies that we can perceive, so that data becomes somehow the resolution of that data is not perfect. And we can now use that to understand how to mix and what's going on when we mix. But then there's other things like, have you ever heard, I'm sure you have, but I'm just kind of setting it up. Have you ever heard of the Haas effect, John?
Absolutely.
So Helmut Haas was this German physicist dude. And he presented a paper. I think he did it in 1949, but I think he finally presented the final paper in 1953 on the law of first wavefront. And basically the idea that, you maybe want to explain it, John, or should I keep going?
You go ahead.
So it's the idea that a sound comes from its source. It leaves its source, and if it arrives to your ears, you have two of them. If it arrives to your ears at the same time, leaving its source, arriving to your ears at the same time, you're going to get a feeling that the presence of it it's going to be very intimate or very in front of you. Sort of a way to navigate around the world. Because if you have your eyes closed, it gives you a lot of information about what's happening in your environment if you can't see, right? But now Haas discovers, and it wasn't only Haas. There were others that wrote other papers before him. He got the credit in the end, but he discovers that if the sound from the source comes out, and for whatever reasons, would it be maybe bouncing against the walls or surfaces or whatever, they suddenly arrive to one ear slightly before they arrive to the other ear. So 2-3 milliseconds divergence between the arrival of the wavefronts. Your brain processes that as it gives you a feeling of something bigger is afoot. Something maybe you're in a bigger space, or maybe the source is a bigger source. It just changes everything. So if you have your eyes closed, it will not present in your brain in the same way. Let's demonstrate the Haas effect, John. What do you say?
Sure. Now,
go ahead.
I'm just thinking about that. So, does it have something to do with how we locate sounds around us?
Completely. It's about how we locate sounds, and it's wonderful that we can do that with our eyes closed. Like remember the kung fu guy with the blindfold on. Just kind of just listening for the fighters or whatever. That's sure. The story. That's the situation. So we can have, let's say, let's grab some drum machine, a very simple one like a 707. Throw that in there. And so let's write a little part with just a hi-hat. This will do, and hopefully my stereo is working well. So I'm just gonna create a hi-hat here, and let's play it. So that's pretty much in the center. I mean, it's a little skewed, but maybe that's in the, I can do that. And now it's definitely in the center, right? So we feel and perceive this, and if you're closing your eyes, you could hear that this is happening in the center, right? So now let's take that and add a little bit of divergence from left to right. Now, an easy way to do it, it's not the perfect way of doing it, but we can add a delay. So if we take a delay and drop it in here, and we add a delay, and we change this to time, and you don't need any feedback because you just want it to repeat once.
Don't forget the filter.
And we want to turn off the
You
filter.
want to turn. Oh yeah.
We don't want to have any filtering going on, and we want it completely wet. We don't want to have wet-dry situation. We just want it completely wet. And we're going to bring the time down to 1 millisecond on both. Now, one millisecond on both. You're going to have to eat that millisecond because it doesn't go any slower than that, or any faster than that, or
It's virtually imperceptible
lower than
on
that.
its own.
Right.
There are other
So-
ways of doing this, which you can.
Right, I could have
avoid
made a
that.
copy and delayed one of them off the other, or whatever. But this is a simple way of doing it. So I'm going to take now the right side and increase the delay on there by, say, 6 milliseconds or so, which turns out to be like 5 because we have that one on the other side. But the truth is that it's a little bit different now. So we'll play it now without it, and behold the Haas effect. Do you hear that in
Behold.
stereo where you are, John?
I do.
Okay, so I'm taking it that everybody else can hear this going on. Once again, back
If
to
you're
the
not wearing
center.
headphones, you're not going to notice it. You got to have.
If you're not wearing
on to hear
headphones
this
or don't
properly.
have a nice little kind of stereo setup here with 2 speakers, you won't notice it. So go back and put on your headphones and try it again. But look, right now, the same sound, nothing is different, but they're both arriving to your ears at the same time. And now we switch out to having it arrive to one ear a little bit earlier than the other. And our brains suddenly realize that something's going on here. It still connects it to part of the same sound. So you're kind of fooling because it's really 2 sounds, but the brain is not making that distinction in its 2 sounds. It's just saying that it's something that's a sound that's really big for whatever reason. Now, if we increase the time on this one to like 37, now your brain says, oh, no, that's not one sound that's really big, that's 2 sounds, and you could hear the 2 sounds all together. So there is definitely a threshold around, I find it around 20, 23 milliseconds, where your brain starts to lose the illusion of the Haas effect starts to fall apart. And once again, together, right in the center, as you pull them apart, you start getting this big, broad sound. Now, some things to think about when you think about the Haas effect. It's dangerous to use it with low frequency stuff because you definitely introduce phase cancellations because of the delays in the waves. So always you're going to there's going to be some sort of phase cancellation happening. It's always the case. There's depending on how much the delay is, some frequency is going to get canceled.
Also, intermodulation, right? Like the difference in frequency between the left and the right when they're combined causes intermodulation, which creates a new frequency that we perceive, and that might be even if your low frequencies don't totally disappear, you will hear weird artifacts. You will hear new frequencies that didn't exist before because of the intermodulation between the left and the right channels. That's another crazy psychoacoustic thing to listen for. It's also something you can use creatively on purpose to do really cool stuff.
Right. I mean, that goes back down to tonotopicity because of the laying out of these auditory filters that we have in our cochlear. Anything in between.
Quick?
What's that?
Do the Haas effect on a sound and then sum it to mono and listen to what happens.
Sum it to mono. How would you like me to sum it to mono?
Well, you can put a utility after that and make it mono. And I don't know how extreme it's going to be on a sound like a hi-hat, like a snare or something with more mids. It'll be more obvious. But like,
there it is. It's 2 sounds. I could hear
Do you hear how there's a little lower tone to it now?
Mm-hmm.
Like turn the mono off. Make it stereo again.
Yeah, totally.
right? If you put the mono on, you start to hear a dut, 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 like a note underneath
Totally.
the bright sound of the hi-hat. That's a new frequency created by the difference in time between the left and the right.
Yeah, it's basically sidebands
And
that are
then, yeah, like you find in ring modulation. So what I'm getting at here is, in what you were sort of hinting at it earlier, where like once you increase the delay time far enough, it becomes to be two sounds, not one. That amount of time relates almost exactly to the lowest frequency we perceive as a pitch.
right.
So like, if you have a sine wave at 20 hertz, that's as low as anyone could possibly hear a note. Once you get that waveform going slower than that, it's not a note anymore. It's a
Do you know that
rhythm.
just
a
on
pulse.
that, just did you know that we could perceive below 20 hertz?
Perceive, yeah. Hear exactly clearly, no.
Not with our ears.
That's
It's with
another
it's with our sense
psychoacoustic
of
thing.
touch. It's with our sense of
Sure.
touch.
Well, yeah, you
And
can feel
actually,
frequencies lower than that.
yeah,
I'm talking about ears.
12 hertz. 12 hertz is the lowest kind of categorized identified musical note. Is 12
Well,
hertz.
if you get one of those sub-pack things on your chair, you can do that.
Oh yeah, you totally can. Like frequencies between 4 and 16 hertz, and there's a hole between 16 and 20 for some reason. But frequencies between 4 and 16 hertz can be perceived by the sense of touch, which is really cool. Anyway, so all these things we're discussing now sound very scientific and nerdy, but when you start putting them
They sound
together
cool.
and putting them into your workflow for how you're mixing your tracks, this is all the difference. When you start thinking, that's the thing. In my mixing classes, I kind of try to baptize people into another way of being, meaning that up until now, you've been a musician, you've been a writer, you've been a composer, you've been, heavily dependent on emotions and making, and your purpose has been to like make people want to hug each other and cry when they listen to your music, or dance the night away, or something like that. But from that point on, from the point when you start to act like an audio engineer, you have to leave all of that behind and become agnostic to all of that and just deal with science. And for the purpose of like making the potential of this track just explode. And things like understanding all the aspects of psychoacoustics. And there's so many others that we just don't even have the time to get into, which in our course we definitely do get into, that we use on a daily basis. Like you just take the Haas effect, for example. I find that a lot of times you have a full frequency spectrum, right? And you have all these elements that you want to fit inside the frequency spectrum. And let's say it's a very populated sound-wise track, and you have all these sounds that are maybe even competing with each other in certain parts of the spectrum. And you're like, oh man, I'm having a hard time. These sounds are masking each other. This guitar and this voice and this piano are all like a big soup. How do I make some distinction? And you try to do whatever you can, side chaining and all the other things you might have heard of before. But one of the things that you could always do is grab one of those parts and throw that part into the Haas effect. And that becomes like this, suddenly it's like discovering, I like to say it's like discovering a walk-in closet you never knew about in your house, because it's like this place in the mix that suddenly is by itself. It's another dimension in the mix. It stops competing with anything in that part of the frequency spectrum. It just is in its own spot right now. And it's something that if you don't take advantage of that in the mix, especially when you have a very populated mix that you need to make room for things for, you're losing out. And these are all the things that we cover in the mixing class. So if you guys are interested, we have a class starting on Sunday, 12:15. Jump in. I think there's still some spots left. Anyway, I think that's all the time we have for today. Is there anything you want to add, John?
Oh, I mean, there's all sorts of fun things to talk about in terms of psychoacoustics. I'll just add that it's definitely also, if you're into the deeper side of creating your own sounds and learning about different types of synthesis. Abe's approaching this from a mixing point of view. My course, I think I have one starting in February, if I remember. If someone remembers what the date is in the chat from 343, please throw it in there. But, that's definitely, something that we go into is perception of sound and learning how to analyze and break down the details. And then, be aware, not get too crazy scientific about it, looking at it creatively, but like what we're talking about here, like where Abe is talking about the Haas effect as like a mixing tool, I will talk about psychoacoustics and, how we perceive sounds in relationship to making our own sounds with synthesis and sound design. So, yeah, definitely, check us out if you want to get into that in a more deep way.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so it's 2:04. Last week we just went on and on. It didn't stop. I think we'll just stop today, right now, where we are. And let's just remind people that you'll be back tomorrow talking about how to arrange electro. Are you going to have Jason on by any chance?
I should ask him. I didn't book a guest
come
for
on.
tomorrow, but sometimes people drop in at the last minute. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be perfect for that show. That's for sure. And he's done with his album. I know that for a fact because I'm mastering it.
So he's not stressed out as much.
Well, he was the last times we were trying to get Jason. You've seen him on John's show, and he's been on my show as well. He's very interesting fella with a lot to add about a lot of things, and he's definitely had a lot to say about electro because John and Jason run an electro styled label, I guess, called Serotonin Records. Is that right?
We've dabbled, yes. While we're on the subject of electro and guests, tomorrow I think it'll mostly be me. There might be someone to call in, but I have scheduled next Saturday for Techno Friends a very important person as far as I'm concerned, who's been really supportive of what Jason and I used to do with Serotonin and still do sometimes. And Keith Tenniswood is his name. He's known as Radioactive
Nice.
Man. He was in Two Lone Swordsmen with Andrew Weatherhall, if you've heard of that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Sadly passed away last year, but they called him the Governor's really, respected, revered DJ and producer. But yeah, Keith is going to be my guest, and I'm really happy he's going to be on. So definitely come back tomorrow, but definitely come next Saturday, the following week, for Keith Tenniswood.
Right on. All right, John, let's just say goodbye then. What do you say?
I say goodbye.